Hello, everyone. I would like to start by remembering Professor Engineer Giorgio Croce. I'd like to share my screen with you. Professor Engineer Giorgio Croce was one of the great structural engineers of our time. ISCARSAH and the heritage conservation community have lost a leading specialist and tireless actor in the field of structural conservation of historic structures. He was well known internationally as the author of the reconstruction of the Basilica of Assisi following the 1997 earthquake and the repatriation of the Stele of Axum to Ethiopia from Rome in 2005. His works are many, but include the Pantheon, the Colosseum, the Tower of Pisa, the Hagia Sophia and Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, the Villa Medici, and the Palatine Palace. Obviously, Giorgio was from Rome. Professor Croce had a long and fruitful collaboration in the safeguarding of world monuments through UNESCO, including membership in the International Coordinating Committee for the Safeguarding and Development of the Historic Site of Angkor, and the International Committee of Experts on the Safeguarding of the Cultural Heritage of the Old City of Jerusalem. In 2000, he was awarded the silver medal by the Académie d'Architecture in Paris in recognition of these contributions. But most significantly for us, from 1996 to 2005, he was the first president and a founding member of ISCARSAH and was later made honorary president. To ICOMOS, this was his greatest contribution to our field. He was the principal author of the ICOMOS Charter, Principles for the Analysis and Conservation and Structural Restoration of Architectural Heritage, which was ratified in Zimbabwe in 2003. And now this document, the principles, as we call them, have been translated into about 9 different languages, and they are readily available on our website. Those of us who worked with him on the principles hold him in great admiration, for he was brilliant, influential, a great leader, and an effective mentor. He had deep insight and understanding on the technical study and conservation of heritage structures, and he elevated these insights into an art as part of an interdisciplinary, collaborative approach that thoroughly recognizes the values of cultural heritage. Those of you who are not acquainted with him have also been influenced by his work, whether you know it or not. This is his legacy, and we will benefit from his example and the writings far into the future. Now let's take a moment of silence to remember Professor Engineer Giorgio Croce.
Okay, if there's no one else, I think I'll go to the next slide. Steve raised his hand. I'm sorry. Steve, go ahead.
Oh,
I cannot see the hand.
Yes, I put my hand up. I just wanted to respond what we were hearing from our ICOMOS Secretary General, Mario Santana. ISCARSAH has always been a committee of world experts, and we're really on a two-edged sword when we start to say that you have to be we either want to be a committee of world experts, or we want to be a committee of world experts who happen to be a member of a particular committee. That is kind of a two-edged sword, and that is a bit of a limitation. And I wanted to acknowledge that was indeed the case. And I find it a bit troubling, and I think it is something that should be discussed a little bit more. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. So I see Maria has the hand up. Maria Bolsonaro. And then I think Nirzari, if my pronunciation is correct.
Unmuting. Yeah, Bolsonaro. It's normally it's Cedil, but I don't write it always because it's difficult. So I received a letter at the beginning of the year that I've been elevated to expert member. Actually, I was slightly over the 9 years of membership. I had just 1 year more. But I'm neither in the meetings from last year nor those of this year. So I'm wondering if this will be written somewhere. And I couldn't unmute myself because I tried to download that attachment of members by country. Maybe it is there, I don't know.
These are new members, Maria.
Please?
These are new members.
New members, not former members who are
No, these are new members.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we had this request from our colleague. I don't know if the end is down now, but I don't think so. Please go ahead. Nirzari Pujara.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I am Nirzari, and I am a very new conservation architect from India. And I'm very excited to be a part of ISCARSAH. And I am an emerging professional. And I have about 3 years of experience prior in working in different heritage, conservation, and cultural heritage projects. And I'm really looking forward to working with all of you and contributing to it, and also learning from all the experts. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you also, and welcome. It's a pleasure also to meet you. Okay, so I mean, we have here a few slides. I see that team already sent something else, and thank you for handling the database and condensating the information. So these are some information that we thought it would be nice for people to look at. And so as you can see, 65% of our members are expert and 30% are honorary. Then the other categories are very small. We do have some gender unbalance. That is not unusual in engineering, even though not this large, and particularly in conservation, but it is what it is. But it also means maybe that the committee and the bureau needs to be more active on trying to reach a little bit of a better balance. We ask also the people in the database to respond to some questions regarding their expertise. And so you can see how our members qualify themselves. So the masonry and timber are the materials people work with more, and then reinforced concrete and earth. This is again a voluntary description of each member. So there is no control from the board or from us. And then regarding the expertise and the building types, you can see the expertise is diverse, but there's a lot on surveying and recording, also evidently on structural analysis, risk assessment, damage, and also in profession. So both in design and implementation and in condition assessment. And in the buildings, you can see that people, well, report as high expertise in walls and fortresses and towers, domes and vernacular buildings, industrial buildings. I mean, this can be sent to you by Tom, the presentation, or I think also maybe Tim already sent to all. And regarding the actions that act on the cultural heritage buildings, and so earthquake is a key concern, is the most destructive disaster in terms of loss of buildings and killings. And so you can see that the expertise is quite high. Also in long-term decay and also in foundations and soils, which is a bit unexpected because here in soil and foundation, the qualification is lower. But this may have to do with the fact that most of our buildings have damage due to foundations. So I don't know if there is any particular question. Yeah. So Tim is saying that this is based on 100 people I removed, but the numbers are there also, which is correct. I don't know if Tim, if you'd like to say something, it would be nice because you did the work.
Hi, Paolo. Yes, I'd like to make one small comment, and that's about the map I sent, which I made late last night, which is essentially shows our representation by geography. And again, I want to say this is preliminary because only 97 people filled out the database. I put in the database form again in the chat if people want to fill it out. You do see where we lack geographic representation quite clearly. So I think that's an interesting thing to remark. I don't know, after everyone has filled out the database, maybe we'll have a better idea about our representation. But I think right now, if you look at Africa, China, Philippines, and the area around in South America, we are very poorly represented of people who filled out the database thus far, I need to say. That's all.
Okay, so that's all on my side. And I give it back to Goran.
All right, thank you.
I can show the map that he's referring to briefly if you would like.
All right, please do.
Here's the map with our distribution of memberships, which was actually different than I expected.
That's not the distribution of membership, is it? That's the distribution of people who've responded to the expert.
Yes, thank you for the correction, yes.
All right, now Steve Kelly will give information about the webinars. Steve?
Okay, if it's okay with you, I'm going to share my screen.
Yes.
Because I have a terrible connection. There, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, we've renamed our webinar series the Giorgio Croce webinar series in memory of Giorgio. And we have had 3 webinars thus far. The first was the response to preparedness in the time of COVID. We had that back in October of 2020. And this is when we were learning how to do a webinar. And we found out that giving a webinar is a fairly easy thing. And unlike having a physical seminar or workshop, we can pull together a webinar within a month to 6 weeks. By the way, we've had a lot of people working on these webinars, and I'm not going to list the names because I'm afraid that I will leave somebody out. But we've had a lot of expert members, associate members, and emerging professionals working on these webinars. Our second webinar was on earthquakes and traditional construction, and we had so many interesting presentations that we broke it up into 3 parts. And you can see that we had part 1 on the 4th of March, part 2 on the 2nd of April, part 3 on the 20th of April. These have all been posted on YouTube. And you can see that part 1 had 867 views on YouTube. parts 2 and 3 both had more than 300 people watch these on YouTube. By the way, all of these webinars have been attended by more than 100 people, some of them by 200 people. The third webinar is on authenticity and reconstruction. And we originally thought that we would have this, this meeting, we would only have part 1, but it was such an interesting discussion, and we also have other presentations. We've decided to have a part 2. And so we're in the initial planning stages. We are looking for people who will help run this webinar, perhaps speak at this webinar. We have 2 presentations ready to go, but we're looking for other presentations. So if you want to be involved in this initiative, and it's a great initiative, please contact us at iscarsah@gmail.com, and we will get you involved. I wanted to present some of the things some of the lessons that we've learned from these webinars. Number 1, these webinars are, they're popular. They're very popular. We've always had more than 100 people call into these webinars. We know now that, that between 4 and 5 people is optimal for these presentations. The presentations are best if they are within a 15-minute time limit. We have also found that the multi-part webinars, they have a marked attendance drop if we go to 3 parts. So it's better if we just do a part 1 and part 2 and possibly not a part 3. These webinars has allowed the participation of emerging professionals, of associate members, and those who could not afford to attend physical conferences in countries other than their own. This has always been a difficulty with ICOMOS, International Scientific Committees in general, is we find that when there is a meeting that that only those who can find the funding will attend those meetings. Well, the pandemic has opened up the playing field, and it's allowed more people to attend. This meeting that we're having today is a good example. We have more than 50 people, and that we've never had this many people at annual meetings when we meet physically. The last comment I wanted to make is that we found that membership has spiked. We have a lot of people asking to become members of the committee. I can't prove that it has to do with these webinars, but I believe that these webinars have a lot to do with that. So at this point, I'll step back and I will allow anybody to make any comments that they want to make. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What's happening? Thank you, Steve. Now, according to our agenda, Merdat Hejazi, is he here? Will introduce ISCARSAH, national ISCARSAH chapters. What's happening? Okay. I will share my screen.
I actually can't find his name. I thought he was here.
Is Merdat Hejazi here? Okay, I'll write him.
No, he does not appear to be in the meeting any longer.
No? No. Okay. He was planning to make some presentation about the ISCARSAH national ISCARSAH chapters. If he joins, maybe later he can do it. The next is ISCARSAH Publications. It's chaired by Maya Segarra Lagunes. The newsletter, the last one is 15, 16, 17 in one issue, and she's finalizing 2 more issues, which will be ready in mid-June. All the newsletters can be reached in ISCARSAH website.
Yeah, and she also passed on a message to me that they're finalizing the 2 issues, and they're also
Yes.
preparing the publications of the workshop from Iran.
Ah,
that,
yes.
That should be complete.
Yes.
The draft will be complete
Yes.
end of June.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The next.
Can I please, Goron, can I say something?
Yes.
About the ISCARSAH news letter,
All right, yes.
As you mentioned, the last one is the number 15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
I try to put the newsletter, some of them, in the ICOMOS international website.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, Madame Lucille, Mario is here with us, so he can tell us about this. She has left ICOMOS, and they do not have a replacement librarian at this moment. This is that Gaia told me some few weeks ago, and maybe it will take some time to have this newsletter in the website. But I try to give all the data of each number, of course, in the in the site web of ICOMOS. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to remind ISCARSAH bylaws. You all know that in June 2020, it was revised according to the ICOMOS bylaws, and Paulo Loranjo already gave information about that. So the next is expert database. Marcella Hurtado and Tim Mitchell's work on that. Tim, you gave it on the chat, but I also wrote it here. The link to enter to expert database. The previous database was in Excel sheet. It was hard to fill in, I think. You can see from the years, in 2019, only 20 members were there. In 2020, 23 members. And now, till last night, it was 97 members. So it made so easy to enter your database. Of course, we are not 97 members altogether. We wait everyone to enter their information in the database because it's very important. ICOMOS and maybe the other institutions also ask experts. So from that database, we give their names and emails so that get contact with them. So it's really very important to fill in these membership database. Are there anyone who haven't entered to the expert database in the group? Janendra, you also, You may also enter here, and afterwards we can change your position after you become ICOMOS member.
Okay.
All right. ICOMOS has working groups and ask from each international scientific committee to have official representatives. We have official representatives in Sustainable Development Working Group, Olimpioniglo, Ivan Strelbitsky, I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, and Shola Akintunde. Emerging Professionals Working Group is represented by Sherife Özata, and Stacy Wallace is also our member, and she's running that working group. We currently lack official representatives in our Common Dignity Initiative, Rights-Based Approaches Working Group, Indigenous Heritage Working Group, Climate Change and Heritage Working Group. Are there any volunteers who would like to represent ISCARSAH in these?
I should update that. We've had, since the last meeting, we've had 2 people step forward to be nominated for the Climate Change and Heritage Working Group, and 1 for the Indigenous Heritage Working Group.
Okay, so, shall we write their names?
Yeah, somehow the changes in presentations, it was lost, and I apologize. I'm bringing up the one that has it now to make sure I have all the names right. Fatme Medizade for the Indigenous Heritage Working Group. My apologies on pronunciation. And stepping forward for Climate Change and Heritage Working Group is Savas Salvoturos and Maria Bolsonaro.
Well, I am in this group, already in this group. So I am part of the ISCARSAH and I'm part of the climate change group. If you want to, but I mean, I am part of the group as part of ICOMOS Spain, but I cannot avoid to be also part of ICOMOS ISCARSAH.
So you're on the Climate Change and Heritage Working Group. This is, I had the name there and I lost it. That's Fernando?
Yeah, Fernando Vegas.
I just received, Tom, I just received message from Bernard saying that when he is trying to connect, it says invalid, and ask the link again. Can you send the link again to?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Fernando. I've got that in my notes here. I was not aware of that.
I couldn't recognize the voice. Who was volunteered for?
I am Fernando Vegas. My connection.
Okay, Fernando. Yeah, okay.
So I have not the video, but you can hear me.
All right, thank you. And for Indigenous Heritage Working Group, who was volunteered?
We have Fatme Medizade. I apologize, I'm not sure.
From Iran. Okay, Fatme.
The names been put forward, and the Indigenous Heritage Working Group is mentioned. They're still trying to form, so I do not know more on that.
Yeah, okay. For our Common Dignity Initiative?
We do not have anyone.
No volunteer from the audience? Okay. All right, then I pass to the other item of the agenda. Maintenance of website and social media.
Hello.
Okay, it's maintained by Radu Kazamir. I think he has some words to say. Radu?
Actually, I meant just the website right now, not the Facebook.
Okay, shall I stop sharing?
I will share.
Okay.
So this is a report that I prepared for this meeting, the ISCARSAH website. I just want to say something about the site, just an introduction. ISCARSAH's site is developed under the WordPress platform. This platform is used by public institution, NGO, and it's easy access to management and post information without needed advanced knowledge in IT. So this point of view, the ISCARSAH site under the WordPress platform, it's easy to use and manage. The ISCARSAH site was created by Donald, who also paid all the cost until now. After the meeting that we held on the ISCARSAH Bureau in 9 October, I assumed the responsibility to get involved in the management of a site from the ISCARSAH Bureau together with other members who show their disponibility. I know that last year meetings, there are 2 members who wanted to work on the website, Mr. Endo and Mr. Savas. I don't know if they're still available to work on the website. So it would be good if they still wanted to do this job. And what we changed until now? We create a new email account associated to the website. So all the credentials of that website is on this email account. So the Bureau can transfer all the responsibility to another website manager if they wanted. So we create a new subcategory. So we create a webinar category. So you can find on the website all the webinar that was conducted by ISCARSAH. We make new function for distribution of posts to social media, Facebook and LinkedIn or other social media. And we update the information and which was on the website until this year. So from the site functionality, after the updates that we made in February and posted to social media, we have a reach of viewers of more than 1,200 viewers. You can see here in this graphic. But this coincidence sorry. So these viewers was exactly in the month when we start the first part of a webinar, Earthquakes and Traditional Construction webinar. Actually, you can see it, webinar, we have more than 800 viewers. So these viewers, maybe some part of it, just see the sites. And this world viewers in the worldwide, you can see this map, which actually is similar to the map that was shown anterior. This is the viewers from 2020 around the world who access the site. You can see this map, which actually it's more or less the same map with members who already entered the database. So in conclusion, for the next period, it's desirable to increase the posting rate as well as their distribution to social media to continue updating the information of the site. The current site has a premium plan from the WordPress platform, and I propose to change this by purchasing the business plan so we'll have more operation tool. By implementing the business plan, we have access to a number of SEO tools, plugins that is very important right now because you cannot implement any plugins. All the costs associated with this changes will be paid by me. But currently, costs for premium plan have been paid by Donald. Acknowledge, I would like to thank Donald who created and managed our site until now. So this is what I have to say about the website. If there are any questions? No? Okay.
Thank you, Radu.
Thank you. Okay. So I go on sharing. Okay, after the website information, now new business post-COVID activities. Tom, I think you have some words to say.
Yeah, and there's a few other new business items that have been sent along to me recently. We've got post-COVID activities. There's a discussion on the timing for our meetings when we've been doing more virtual meetings. There have been some struggles. And just while we're putting down new business, was there anything else someone felt should be put up under new business so we can catch and give it some discussion? Well, you can put it in chat or raise your hand. To start on the post-COVID activities, we will eventually here be going back to in-person meetings. And one of the questions is, how do we want to do that differently? Are we going to now require that any in-person meeting also have the ability for people to be involved virtually? And that will be a requirement on, a second, I'll mute that. There we go. And if we require that any in-person meeting have the ability to do virtual as well, or not? Are there other ways we want to do future in-person meetings differently? And it's more or less to open the floor for that discussion. So please, feel free to speak up. I see Don's raised his hands. Go ahead.
You know, I'm somewhat embarrassed by my lack of attendance at meetings over the past few years. It's been very difficult for me to travel when I want to. If I would attend every meeting if I could. So I would say that while it may not be necessary that every meeting have a virtual component, I can't believe I'm the only person who would attend more regularly if there was a virtual component. And you know, if that means that it's at an awkward time for me because the meeting is taking place, you know, in Krakow or someplace else where the time zone is not convenient for me, that's my problem. But at least I have the opportunity to participate if there is a virtual component. So I'm very heavily in favor of that.
Okay, and I see Mario also has his hand up. Go ahead, Mario.
Thanks, Tom. I think that so you can have many types of buildings, and hybrid or blended meetings have a lot of challenges. One of them is the time zone. So I would say, why don't you consider having all the statutory meetings online where decisions are being made, which are important for ISCARSAH, where you can have much more participation than you would ever have in a blended or fully physical meeting. And then you have the physical meetings for meet and greet.
Okay, thank you, Mario. Other comments? This will have impacts. What requirements we place may have impacts on where we are able to do meetings is something to keep in mind. Personally, I tend to agree that we should find a way to do it, but just to make sure there's fair discussion. Paulo, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. So I agree with Mario. I mean, blended meetings are a nightmare from the point of view of logistics or technical aspects. So I think they are not very easy. I mean, they can be streamed so that people can see them if they want. That is easy, but I don't think allowing, you know, on-site and off-site interventions makes sense. But if we see this participation, this is much more that we would have if we would have a physical meeting. So I think it would be nice to combine, and as everybody now is used to online meetings, to try to keep the annual general meeting on online only, but I don't know.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd be interested to hear from some emerging professionals or newer members as well, and you're willing to, interested in speaking up.
One thing I thought, I'm a bit late. We were talking about indigenous working group, and I will be interested to contribute in that group.
Okay, I'll make that note. Thank you very much.
I'm a bit late, sorry.
No problem at all.
And other issue, one thing is if we can adjust some time for the meeting. It is 1:15 here in New Zealand. So if there could be some adjustment in time, my life will be a little easier.
That was actually my next one on the agenda, was to bring in that discussion too. So it does fit right in. There is a challenge with time zones.
Not easy, but if you can be done.
As well as figuring out how we balance that if there's a strong opinion one way or another. Filippo, I hope I pronounced your name right. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Filippo. Hi everybody. Just one thought about the virtual meetings, which is not just about the ISCARSAH meetings, but it will be about a worldwide issue also for conferences and everything. I would say that having hybrid will leave the possibility to people to attend meeting as numerous as we are here, but also keeping in mind that possibly will discourage, let's say, physical meetings between people, which from my point of view is quite an important issue. Also, I mean, also the social events, side events, rather than just discussions. So it's just a thought about a bit of losing the possibility to really meet people in person, which is, from my point of view, from this year and a half, having 3-5 meetings, virtual meetings per day. I don't know if you're very enthusiastic about that, but I'm missing now a bit the physical encounter of people. Just little.
Yeah, I imagine there will be physical meetings regardless of how to balance it. As is coming up in chat, there's also the mention from some on the academic side that they often cannot get funding for it. And I know some on the industry side are typically paying out of pocket, or not typically, but can be paying out of pocket for attending meetings. And so this is also a consideration. I see there's a few other comments then. These hybrid meeting ideas being supported. Zara, did you want to comment on that vocally? Anyone?
Yeah. It seems hybrid meeting is favored.
Yeah. I don't know why, like in the recent times, I've actually loved the ideas of online meetings because, you know, in an international organization, so many people traveling and just to meet at a place, I don't find it a very sustainable thing to do. Imagine now all of us are not traveling, not spending funds on it, and we are still interacting. So I think it's a good idea to continue online meetings. But in certain aspects, if some very important matters need to be discussed, then a physical meeting may be arranged. But I think a hybrid solution of, you know, streaming those for the other committee members is a good idea. So I totally support the hybrid idea.
But I think it's, traveling is costly, but it's nice to meet the friends and enjoy the places. So that's different. I mean, you can discuss so many other things besides the formal sharing information.
Yes, I definitely agree with that.
I always prefer, but both hybrid is also possible, I think.
Yeah. So both have their pros and cons. So maybe a hybrid solution is the best in this case.
Okay, and there might have to be a balance, but it does sound like at a very minimum, decisions that have, such as AGM needs to be hybrid. I know Mario's mentioned that this is a bit of a concern with ICOMOS because some national committees do not have the infrastructure, and instead of extra costs on ICOMOS, then all of us have to spend more money to travel. Did I get it right, Mario? Sorry, tongue in cheek. Go ahead, Mario.
Well,
I see you got your hand up.
Steve's proposal is interesting. He says it's better to have one online and the other face-to-face, as I understand, yes. And not mix the two, he says.
Yes, I mean, that's what I was proposing. So the statutory meetings when you make decisions could be online, because if we're talking about having an organization that is inclusive and sustainable, it seems really responsible to go back to the physical meetings to make decisions, right? And in ICOMOS at the international level, we are discussing that ongoing because so having a blended meetings is very, very expensive. Let's face it. And maybe technology might advance soon and we might have the wonderful tools in the internet and so on, but it's expensive and time zones are really conflicting. So I don't know. It's an ongoing, now let's just face it, only a small fraction of the world is being vaccinated. The other part is not at all. So we are going to have COVID for a while still. So we have been thinking on another approach is to create pods. So you can have pods of different physical meetings connecting online, you know, so you can have a pod in North America and another one, I don't know, in Europe and Asia, and then you can connect. So that's another way of thinking. So I think we need to be creative, but I strongly support the idea of having decisions online.
You know, if I can come back around, we got a lot, and I'm going to be able to save what we have in chat if I set it up properly in a minute and put that into the record too. Mario, while we have you, did you want to give a comment on what we're going to be looking for people interested in getting involved with a few different things. One of the working groups we don't have anyone involved in is the Our Common Dignity Initiative. Mario, you mentioned you can give a brief intro into what that initiative is.
Well, I mean, the issue is that people don't know what working groups are. And I mean, if somebody knows, let me know. I mean, working groups are groups which are temporal in our ICOMOS world. And they are created because of needs. So the climate change, sustainable development goals are clearly there, right? For that reason. But they shouldn't be there forever because they should not replace the scientific committees. And they are appointed by the board of ICOMOS, and we appoint a focal point, is the person that coordinates. And then international committees and national committees appoint members that participate. Some members are more active than others. That's what has been happening in the climate change. So for the right-based approach, it's really important. It's a new working group, and this new working group is working towards, you know, looking at inclusion, right, and the respect of rights in heritage places. And you know what has been happening lately in the world, we can see that there is a lot of room there. So even though we might be more technical engineers and so on, I think that that issue, you know, of local communities and rights and so on should be something interesting for someone. And it should be good to have somebody from ISCARSAH involved on that committee. And then the Indigenous Heritage Committee is being formed at this stage. It's not completely consolidated. We're working on their terms of reference, and ICOMOS Canada is actually the coordinator of that group. So that group is also important because it talks about inclusion of communities that were not included in ICOMOS at all in the past.
And I think that gives an idea on the working groups. And just to again put a plug, I mean, we're as strong as a group for what we can get involved in and support and do. And we are, one, welcoming people helping out with everything that's going on. And two, specifically, we're looking for, as Stephen Kelly mentioned, some people that want to be the forefront of a given webinar. We kind of have the team set up that we've got a team to support. Steve oversees everything, but then one person is kind of taking and running with each webinar theme. We're working groups. We're still looking for people, and of course, helping with the social media, all that presence, and everything else that's happening, and past initiatives that we're hoping to revise. If you're wanting to get involved, let us know. We are all busy and try and juggle our time. Angela, I see you've got your hand up.
Hi, yes. I'm a totally new member, so I don't know if I would be the most appropriate fit, but I'm happy to volunteer for the working group that's needed, the Our Common Dignity group. I'm happy to be part of that if you feel that I would be an appropriate fit for that.
That would be great. No, thank you very much. I'll put your name down. We'll start following up.
Thank you.
And we've got some good chat. I think there are a lot of the emerging professionals are stating that they find it difficult to do the physical meetings when they're all over the globe. I also find it difficult. That's a whole, yeah. So I want to just acknowledge that. I mean, Rebecca, Tim, and Evan all raising that. I don't know if any of you want to speak. And we've got a few more things I want to fit in and hopefully finish up in this hour. We've got other direct things. Okay. Mirdad, would we be able to come back to you to speak to the National ISCARSAH chapters?
Okay, yeah. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I share my screen if it is possible. Okay, sorry, I had problem to get into the platform. During last few months, we tried to contact with the countries who have national committees. These are Italy, Turkey, and UK. Just a moment, I should start with Italy, just a moment. Okay, here you see the annual report of ISCARSAH Italy. I give you some information about Italy. They were established in 2012. At the moment, we have 33 members, which is quite good. And they have had many activities during last year, such as attending conferences, or in 2012, they contributed to ISCARSAH newsletter, and also they had some workshops during last few years. And also in year 20, they have good activities such as organizing some sort of seminars or attending ISCARSAH meetings and so on. And also you see here the list of the members. It seems that the National Committee in Italy is quite active, and even I think some members from ISCARSAH, such as Maria, are members of the National Committee. I'm not going to go to the details, but it's quite interesting and quite promising. Next, we go to UK. Now I think you see the report of UK. Vasilis Sarhosis is the chair of committee. I'm not sure in which year they were established, but what I get from their report, again, they started their activities since 2017. They have more than 12 members. I don't have the names of the members, but at least there are 12 members, and I think the members come from both industry and from the university. Each year they have 3 meetings, annual meetings between the committee members, and also they have some presentations, some webinars, and so on. And it seems that these people in the UK also have acceptable activities. Even they say that they have a website. Next, we go to Turkey. I don't know in which year they were established. Maybe some colleagues can help me later. But they have 20 members, and I think they are also one of the most active national committees between the 3. They have 20 members. Last week, they have their election. I think at the moment, Ahmet Turer now is the head of the borough. And
yes, just new elections. Thank you for the introduction.
Okay. Thank you very much. I just get back to the session. Thank you. Hello.
Hi. I'm sorry I was a bit late. It has been a crazy day today. I had multiple meetings. I'm sorry for keeping everyone waiting. I was going to make a presentation with the T-glass beams. I'm not sure about the flow of the meeting, but if suitable, I may make a short presentation to everyone.
Guran, you're muted.
The presentation will be later, Ahmet.
Okay.
Now you just present ISCARSAH Turkey.
Oh, well, ISCARSAH Turkey was actually founded probably, what's 8 years ago?
Yeah, 2017, established in 2017.
2017, and has been quite active with about 20 members, and we have recently had an election, but the results are under still progress, I guess. We have sent the results to the International Committee, and hopefully the flag race will continue with the new president of the Turkish branch. We are a small community of architects and engineers, probably, mostly architects, who has tremendous experience both in the field and in theory or academia, I would rather say. I have been a member of ICOMOS International since I think 2004, and we also repeat similar activities in Turkey, like gatherings, teaching for the practitioners, and sharing information. Site visits as well. Actually, since I'm just the new president, it might have been more fair to ask the previous president about the activities, but this is as far as I know, and I would be glad to answer any questions that you might have. Oh, I see Yoshi.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I just to finish my sentences. I would like to ask the members from other countries whether they have any plan to establish their national committees or not, because I think it is important that most of the countries have their own national countries. In my own country, in Iran, we are waiting for another person. When we get to 5 persons, then we can have it. And I suggest other countries also, if they have the possibility for that, establish their national committees as soon as possible. And also, I think from this year, we would like to observe the election of each country. If there is an election there, I think it's better to announce it before to the ISCARSAH Google, and then that would be nice even if we observe the election process and also get informed about the results. I thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, if you stop, are you sharing screen, Merdat? No.
No, I'm not, no.
Okay, so I think we'll now start the presentations. I will shortly announce them and then close my share. Maria Boștenaru-Dan and Alexandru Ionut Petrisor. I'm very sorry for these pronunciations. Their presentation will be on Underground Built Heritage Survey, Romania in European Context, an Outlook to Other Continents, a contribution to the cost action. Then Wong Chun Wan will present Ground Penetration Radar in Investigation and Assessment of Historic Structures. Then Ahmet Türer will present Using Glass T-beams to Support Historic Structures instead of visually unpleasant members. All right, I think I will stop my share and give floor to Maria.
Okay, thank you very much. Your pronunciation was perfect. It's Ionut Petrisor. It's also is an H, but I didn't put the cedil, so it's my fault. Let me find it. I will share from PDF because it's easier to keep the time. So if you remember, I wrote for the newsletter some years ago on participation to the cost action intelligent management of heritage buildings. And now I started not anymore as management committee member, but as working group member in a cost action for which you see the names there. It's Underground Built Heritage as catalyzer for community valorization. I sent it to the chair, and his name is Giuseppe Pace. He's from Naples, and he said me to correct and put the complete name. And here you can see the logo and the link. I don't know if the presentation will be shared so everybody can see the link, but I will put it in the chat afterwards. And so cost actions as written in the newsletter, assure network. Don't worry, I have just 2 slides with text, the rest are pictures. Assures networking and case studies. And I would like, rather than showing off some results, because I've just started a few months ago, to ask your advice for a case study. And I co-opted my colleague Alexandru Ionut Petrisor because he has seen much more underground built heritage than me. So you see why it's important to travel even if it's COVID around. And I am looking to choose a case study for Romania, which would be a religious case study such as rock churches, but I will show also what other underground built heritage we have in Romania, such as infrastructure and mining heritage. As I was saying, the cost action is looking for such heritage, how it can be valorized for the community. Of course, we can do architecture project on how to put the heritage in value, how to cover it. There are three examples which I think show good valorization in Romania. One is Corbi de Piatră in Argeș County with a restored painting. It's a converted salt mine in Turda, so it's a mining heritage. And the cultural center in a former water plant in Suceava, it's infrastructure. And from the 8 case studies which are in the cost section so far, I have seen the catacombs in Italy, and my colleague have seen the Postoina cave and Cappadocia. Postoina cave I missed. So I will show first some caves. I've put here one scene by him to show the connection with other continents, like Grotte de Beni Ad in Algeria. He's cooperating a lot with Algeria. And as I was saying, the case study of Postoina, I think this is connected to what Ahmed is going to show on how to use those T-beams. I put more. So that's, for example, where we could use the T-beams for such members. And then another cave of prehistoric heritage in Bulgaria. I was trying to coax somebody from Germany if somebody is interested to join, because there is nobody. There was an architecture project of my diploma professor on such a fossils founding cave in Germany near Darmstadt. And the infrastructure, that's a road on a natural bridge in Romania. That's one example from Romania, the first one. And then we have, unfortunately, some endangered heritage in Romania. These are the gold mines in Roșia Montana. It's a photo from a colleague who is a good photographer, otherwise not so easy underground, as you see. And then it's a case study which a management committee member, a colleague of us, is going to propose this year. It's a Turda salt mine. This was restored architecturally not so long ago. I visited this in 2012, so it is really great what it could be done there. And then there are some salt mines which are connected to the religious heritage. I propose as a case study. In this salt mine in Slanik Prahova, the statues of the former kings of Romania are put in light. And then there are two caves visited by a colleague which have churches to Saint Barbara, who is protecting the miners. This is Ocnele Mari and this is Târgu Ocna. And from these churches in caves, I'm going over to stone churches. I observed that there are three kinds of religious heritage: antiques, catacombs, which is case study in section. Then we have some from the medieval time, which we will see, and then contemporary ones. This one in Helsinki is even from the post-war time, while the one in Budapest in the Gellért mountain is from the interwar time. It has a special story on the saint on that hill, but I will not go in detail. And now it's another one pretty known at Ivanovo, Basarabov in Bulgaria. I am going to write to a conference, or maybe it's a newsletter. Basarab were actually leaders of Romanians, and I suspect it has a connection to Bulgaria. Another stone church in Bulgaria. And this is one of the case studies. This should be better known, Cappadocia. I want also to visit Matera, but now with COVID, it's difficult. As I was saying, the catacombs, unfortunately, there it is prohibited to take photos. I've seen those in Rome and those in Vatican. And we have this kind of stone churches also in Romania. This is the stone church in Dobruja, near the seaside of St. Andrew, who Christianized Romania. Also in Dobruja is a church of Basarabia, as I was saying, in Murfatlar County, where there are good wines. As you see here, it needs a superstructure, not only a down structure. And now I will show the medieval ones I was mentioning. They are spread in the landscape and difficult to reach, but my colleague made a trip there and reached them in Buzău County. I also had at my postdoc a colleague who did the mapping of the monasteries in Buzău country from the Middle Ages. As you see, not only are the caves themselves difficult to reach in the landscape, but also once you arrived at the cave, it's difficult to get into the cave, as you see. And this is another cave in the landscape. And I'm looking forward to see there is a triangle with 4 churches in Argeș County, where my father was from, but they are as difficult to reach, and I hope to make a case study, maybe to have some students going to them, who knows. And the final category are infrastructure. And my diploma work was on a water museum. I've seen much later in 2012, a water museum in Lisbon, in Portugal, but it's the only one in the world I know from. And also in 2012, I was in Suceava, 100 years after the water plant was launched there, and it was transformed in a cultural center. So this is also a possibility if not stone churches and to look at this water plant. So I'm waiting for your comments on which might do a better case study. And I'm coming to the conclusions, some how I've put them during the time. There are examples of valorization of the kinds of underground built heritage in Romania I have shown, but also endangered sites. And the interventions need exploration from the point of view of architecture, structure, but also art as mural paintings in Corbi de Piatră. The sites are valuable also through the landscape around, and as I was saying, with the roads we have in Romania, they are more difficult to reach as in other countries. Thank you for your attention, and I'm waiting for your questions, and suggestions are most welcome on how to continue this research. It still goes 2 years, so the cost action is at its mid-term now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm also in time, also there was too many slides.
Okay, thank you. The next presentation will be by Wong Chan Wan.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you everyone. Nice to see everyone again. Okay, I'd like to thank the opportunity to give a short presentation on ground penetration radar investigation and assessment of historic structures. And I think today we have one new member who is also into non-destructive assessment. I hope that, well, maybe we can consider having some form of, how should I say, networking among members of different ISCARSAH members who can share information with regards to the use of different non-destructive testing techniques. I think it was Michael Schuler from the USA. He says he's involved in non-destructive testing. Okay, a quick one on the ground penetration radar. We have been using a lot in the last few years with improving technology in the use of electromagnetic wave to investigate the constructions as well as the condition of historic structures. This is one case. It is an underground tunnel, right? It has been left abandoned, constructed in 1878. It's used to store ammunition. We supply gun and cannon above. During the war between Singapore and the Japanese at the time. Okay, the objective was really to determine the construction of the tunnel as well as the safety, assessment of the safety of the tunnel. Unfortunately, there was no drawing at the time because it was not so long ago. We started off by, aside from radar, in fact, we flew an indoor drone to capture the internal condition. We also employed pulse echo tomography to determine the condition of the structure. So there are different types of radar, which include a simple, small handheld model to a larger view operated, and sometimes we do it on the underside of the ceiling. Okay. Okay, so this one. Okay, so we use a combination of radar and LiDAR to scan above the tunnel at the top, and then through a 3D model. After we generate a 3D model, we find the overbearing soil, the depth of the soil above the tunnel. So an overall 3D model has been generated using the drone, indoor drone, as well as the LiDAR. And then from there, using a combination of different radar, okay, we could pick up, for instance, the back wall of the tunnel, the back of the tunnel. Because the tunnel was surrounded by soil, we don't want to know the thickness of the wall. So through the scanning, we could find the thickness of the wall at different locations of the tunnel. And when we ran the radar at the top of the tunnel, we could pick up the arch. This is the arch of the tunnel, the entrance of the tunnel, and we could find the wall of the tunnel. This was helpful in determining the overall construction of the tunnel itself. And from there, we developed the overall scheme. Different sections of the tunnel with a different thickness, different dimension. And in fact, from here, you can see that the concrete tunnel has no reinforcement. It's just a mass concrete, which is about 600 mm thick. The various thickness in the tunnel. So from there, you could see from here, we have marked out the different dimensions and construction, like from 500 mm to a 1 meter thick tunnel. And on the ceiling, part of the ceiling, we found it to be constructed of masonry. So it's a masonry arch above which you have the concrete ceiling. This is a fort next to the tunnel. We want to establish the construction detail of the fort and the wall behind. And we scan on the slab on top, we can pick up reinforcement. You can see the parabola here. These are indications of the positions of the steel reinforcement bar. And below here, you can see the outline here. This is the soil below the slab. So we can identify the layers of soil underneath. And when the scan was made along a wall, it is a very thick wall, about 600-700 mm thick. And behind the wall, you could see other structures are hidden behind the wall of the tunnel. So we found the technique to be very useful over here. In this particular case, this is a warehouse. It was built in the early 1900s. And in the recent restoration, the engineers wanted to know the construction of the slab. There was no drawing whatsoever, no indication of where the ground beams are located. Some drawings, old drawings were available, but no dimensions, no dimensions were shown. So through the radar, I could find the reinforcement of the slab, the thickness of the slab, and even the reinforcement and the dimensions of the ground beam below the slab. So depending on the electromagnetic signal that we use, we could even go much deeper than let's say about a meter. Okay, when we scan the slab, we can even find embedded pipes. Now, this was later found to be sewage pipes embedded in the slab itself and determined to the top layers as well as the bottom layers of the bar. You can generate a 3D model, a 3D cross-section of the entire slab, not only on the surface. This is used to be a church, a convent of the Holy Infant Jesus Middle Education School, built in 1904. Along the way, there was an extension, but there was no record where the extension had been erected. So when we ran a radar on the slab, you can see the ceiling of the roof, and on the second floor, there are corrugated metal sheets. So we scanned on the slab, we found the original construction and the extension of the building. The original construction come with the corrugated sheet, metal sheets, but the extended area contained steel reinforcement. That's how we detected, we managed to find the extension of the building. And over here, this is a mosque, the National Mosque in Malaysia, built in the 1960s. And it was restored 3 years ago. You can see the roof has a dome roof, pyramid roof, and a sunken roof. The sunken roof is where the rainwater discharges from the roof to the ground below. But there was no drawing to show where the rainwater downpipe had been located. When we did a scan on some of the columns, we detected the rainwater downpipe. A horizontal scan, we found a parabola. A vertical scan, we found a line of the rainwater downpipe. And then we decided to run the scan along the floor to pick up the pipes hidden under the slab. You can see the reinforcement. You can see the street and all the finishes at the top. This reflection is dark white and black band here indicates possibly the delamination of the floor tiling on the slab. Okay, what the recent projects we had is the underground pedestrian link, which has been abandoned for a couple of years. The new owner went in and wanted to redevelop to make use of the tunnel, to be used as a commercial space. And of course, in the tunnel, there's a lot of water seepages. So the intent is to establish where the water is seeping in. So when we looked at it, this is the section of the tunnel we were tasked to investigate, below which is the MRT line. It is an MRT station. So aside from a radar, we did the pulse echotomography. So we can do a line scan, which you pick up the parabola of the steel reinforcement, either in parabola or after migration of the data, you get the dots. These are the position of the reinforcement. What is interesting, however, is to see when we did an aerial scan, we could see the reinforcement bar on the right side very sharp and very clear, but on the left, the image of the reinforcement bars are very blurry. You can, depending on the software that you use, you can move the image from top to bottom. You can find on the right side, you can see the reinforcement bars very nice. But when you move towards the left, the bars seem to be much deeper. Why? Because in the presence of moisture, the speed of the electromagnetic wave slows down. So once it slows down, the bars appear to be much deeper from the surface. So we can do it as an aerial scan in the 2D mode, or you can even use a GPR slice or software and you can generate a 3D mode and you can determine any object, any subsurface anomalies below the surface. Okay. And lastly, this is the Church of Nativity in Singapore, built in the late 1800s. You can see over here, the columns have been subjected to some rising damp and moisture. Okay, so we have done a lot of testing on around the building of the column to pick up the moisture content below the column at mid-height and above. But we couldn't find the salt content, which required drilling of powder and carrying out chemical analysis. So what we did, interestingly, was to run a radar from the bottom to the top. At a certain height, which appeared to coincide with the area where the salt has caused damages to the plaster, there is an attenuation of signal, which means the electromagnetic signals have been fully absorbed by the salt. You can see from here, it's about 1.2 to about 1.4 meter height. So we know in this case, aside from uprising dam in this old masonry building, we know where the salt tend to accumulate more at about a certain height. And this can be easily picked up from the radar. Okay, so we found at the end of the day, radar is very useful in a lot of diagnosis, and we would hopefully like to use more and perhaps share with members of the communities the wonderful technique this technique can bring. And with the improved technology nowadays we have, which allow us to send the signal much further down into the substrate and collect a lot more data, and through some software, you can process it. Okay, with that, I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was very interesting. Thank you. Okay, next presentation will be by Ahmet Türer. using glass T-beams to support historic structures. Okay.
Hello, everyone. This is a study that we have concluded with my master's student recently, and I wanted to share it because I think it may have some nice applications for historic structure. Now, I tried to find a cave picture with temporary support. This is not a perfect one, but you get the idea. Here's another one with a heavy structural support. You may think that how glass can be used instead of this, but it is surprising to see that glass is a very high strength material. I just would like to highlight that it is about 400 to 800 megapascal strength. So when you compare this with concrete of only 30 megapascal or steel with 320 megapascal, it's like a super material. And the tensile strength is also in the range of, for regular glass, I would say 40 megapascal, and for tempered glass, 120 megapascal. So why don't we use it for structural purposes, especially for temporary strengthening or supporting historic structures? Probably because we don't trust it, because, well, it basically cracks and breaks. So 40 to 50 megapascal of tensile strength for floating glass, and about 120 megapascal for tension of the tempered glass, and all the way to almost 1 gigapascal is a very superior strength. With this new glass, there are ways we can prevent cracking. One of them is post-tensioning, and this is what we have investigated in this study. Tempering is a strange act on glass that nowadays, for example, the car windows are like that. They are higher strength. Actually, it is the ordinary glass, but just went through some process. So when this is done, the outer layer is under compression and the inner layer is in tension. So because of that, when it breaks, it just tears up into little pieces, and people use some transparent material on both sides so that when it cracks, it just doesn't shed into pieces. So how it is done is you put the glass through some heating chamber, and when it comes out, you immediately cool it off. So the exterior parts are very quickly strengthened, or let's get hardened, and the inner part just is still soft. And over time, as the inner part gets stiff, it shrinks and it applies a post-tensioning to the outer edge. So this is the production sequence. So in this study, we have studied the regular glass on the right and tempered glass on the left. And I will present you the results that we have obtained, which were quite promising. So we tested a T-beam made out of glass. So this was like 10 centimeters wide and 10 centimeters high, about 3 inches. And we used L-shaped aluminum angles to connect these two together. And we used epoxy. So it was very elegant looking. And the length was about 1 meter, which is about a little bit more than 3 feet. So when you have a beam like this, and when you apply bending around the neutral axis, you get compression on the top and tension at the bottom, which is not very desirable, because remember, the tensile strength is in the order of 50 to 120 megapascal. The compression strength is high. So there's a trick that we use in reinforced concrete structures, that we apply an axial post-tensioning or pre-tensioning. Since glass is already manufactured, we apply a post-tensioning. And then we just bury this field of compression further into the material and reduce the tensile stresses. So that's the theory behind it. If you move this post-tensioning force a little bit below the neutral axis, which is this one here in the middle, then you even produce a negative bending moment, and it will be even stronger. A lot of compression though, which might run into some buckling problems. So we need to check the regions that are under high compression, especially the ones at the exterior sides against buckling. But there are ways to do that. So we tested glass in strong axis and then weak axis, and we applied a simple bending test, and we got the results. So regular glass had a bending strength of 33, 34 megapascal, which is as strong as concrete, by the way. This is regular plain glass. So when you use tempered glass, which is this heat treating, it goes to a large 170 megapascal in tension for glass, which is very high. This is the strong axis when you put the glass like this, and this is the weak axis when you put glass like this and apply the bending. So they behave different. Well, after knowing this, we applied this distributed load and the post-tensioning. So we did this with plain glass and tempered glass, and we got the results. So I will just run through the calculations. Basically, we placed some wooden blocks on top of the T-beam, and we tested them with and without post-tensioning to see if we can actually improve the strength. Now, this is a nice setup that we used to naturally divide the single load into sub-branches. When you apply a load here, it is statically divided into two. So you don't have to apply 8 different pistons, but instead have a simply supported beam, and then each one simply supported, and then each one simply supported. So whatever force we apply, we divided it into 8 equal pieces, and which is independent of the deflection. So that was a nice setup. And the results that we have obtained with the regular glass, it breaks, and with tempered glass, it breaks. And then we applied the post-tensioning, and we did all the additional tests. The post-tensioning we applied using brass brackets that we have epoxied, and we used this nice curved shape, and we applied the post-tensioning with a piston here, hydraulic piston, and this is after the test. Now, this is the loading during the testing, and I think I need to come to the conclusion. When we compare the float glass, without post-tensioning, it had the smallest strength. And when we apply the post-tensioning, we have improved the strength for more than 2 times. This is tempered glass without post-tensioning. So when you compare this with the regular glass, you see about 4 times strength increase. This is meaningful because about 30, 40 megapascal versus 120, 160 megapascal, the tensile strength is about 4 times. And then when you apply the post-tensioning to the tempered glass beam, we had a superior strength to all the other beams. Well, the results turned out to be compatible with the hand calculations. So the test, finite element modeling, and the hand calculations yielded the same. So we are pretty sure about the strength. And when it comes to basically supporting structures, let me go back to the original, the initial one. I think it may be possible to make these supports under pure compression or bending using glass. And even if that's temporary, it may still have a nicer look. And for those who think glass is a very brittle material, it is also quite strong as concrete. And I mean, more than 10 times, 20 times stronger than concrete. And if you use sturdy cross sections together with post-tensioning, then it can be a nice supporting mechanism for historic structures, together with some timber pieces to minimize stress concentrations. So I just wanted to share these results with you. And if any questions, of course, I would be glad to answer.
Yes, there are some questions. John Damsek, yeah, if you look to the chat, you'll see those questions. Would glass be susceptible to long-term creep and deformation under long-term applied loads? Is one of the questions.
I'm glad to have many questions. Well, we haven't investigated the creep performance, but considering they are both brittle and high compressive strength, small tensile strength, I think it may be similar to concrete. So when you apply stresses, compressive stresses in the order of 80–90% of the strength, concrete creeps. So I would expect a similar response from the glass, but we haven't investigated that. We also know that glass is actually a viscoelastic material. If you look into the glasses of historic buildings, they are thicker at the bottom and thinner at the top because it just flows. So it's a solid flowing material. So if a glass beam will be in place for, I don't know, quite a long time, more a couple of decades or 100 years, I would say, then we would expect some viscous deformations. And if we keep the stress levels low, I don't expect a lot of creep, but I wouldn't be sure without testing it.
All right, thank you. There was one more. Do you problem with nickel sulfide inclusion in tempered glass?
Oh, well, we haven't looked into the chemicals. I'm trying to find the exact word, something sulfide. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it interacts with the glass material, which is silica, but I know silica reacts with alkali materials. So we have a special problem in concrete elements, alkali silica reaction. So it produces something like a toothpaste. So it's also weakening, of course, the strength. So if we use glass in alkali environments, I am thinking that it may react. But this may be prevented by some surface thin layer protection against that. But of course, there are locations where glass is very advantageous as compared to steel, for example, that it doesn't rust, especially with the aluminum L-shaped connectors. And we can also make I-beams out of it to better utilize the tensile strength at the bottom flange. Hopefully that answers this question.
There is one more question.
Cyclic testing. This
no,
is for
before the problem may be with lower, what's that? For
KLC for glass, for concrete. So when any scratch appears on a glass surface, it can be a problem. Yes. Well, actually, there are some initial cracks and scratches on glass, which is reducing its tensile capacity. This is very nice questions. I'm very glad. This is the reason why we actually applied post-tensioning. The post-tensioning, how does it work? Is it applies the whole glass under a compressive stress, uniformly distributed or inversely distributed stress under compression. So glass feels much comfortable under it. I mean, for non-engineers, 400 to 800 megapascal is much stronger than regular steel. We can, for example, type 1 is 220 megapascal, and the structural steel that we use is 420 megapascal. This, probably the higher strength one is 520 megapascal, and this glass is 800 megapascal. So I think it's a hidden potential, but very nice questions, including the fatigue.
questions are coming is still. Was there any cyclic testing done with this? And the other question is, were the edges reduced?
No, these pieces, especially for the plain glass, they were cut out of a bigger plate. So the edges were not smoothened, or they were not naturally round. But when it comes to tempered glass, in theory, you melt the whole glass, or you make it soft, almost melting, and then you immediately cool it off. So I would say, even if the tempered glass was cut out of a longer plate, and when it was heated, the corners must have been nicely melted and have taken a rounded shape. And then with the rapid cooling process, the tempering thing, the outer edge is under compression also. So there are two advantages. One of them, existing cracks and rough surfaces have been nicely melted and rounded. And secondly, it was under a nice uniform compression field. So that must be the reason of 36 megapascal versus 160 megapascal difference, because of the softness of the edges and the post-tensioning because of the tempering. But no fatigue tests we have done. Again, thinking about the concrete versus steel, fatigue is more critical on steel structures. And I haven't heard about concrete being critical under fatigue. So I'm expecting no fatigue problem with the glass, but this is just an expectation.
All right. Thank you very much. It was the questions show that it attracted attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You may stop sharing.
Very nice presentation, Ahmed.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, friends.
All right. Okay. I think most of the colleagues had to leave. They had other meetings. This virtual meetings made it this way. There is no time limit. You may have meetings in the evening. You may have meetings early in the morning, and they usually overlap each other. So thank you for everyone for attending this meeting.
Thank you, Gurun.
Hope to meet in another meeting soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
course.
Bye-bye.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Face to face.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. So I
Thank you.
adjourn.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Nice seeing you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Merdad.
Okay, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Insuk.
So, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.